There you are.
Hey, everybody, and happy Friday to you. I'm Tisha out of Arizona, along with Nate out of Georgia. We host Casual Convo Friday, every single Friday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, until November, right? And we have our special guest today is Ashley Bright. And he is the message fixer. I always say that, Ashley. I just have to. It's so much fun. And you can see he's even color coordinated with our yellow theme going on. He's got his yellow glasses, the yellow message fixer. Oh, man. Okay. Even yellow Apple Watch. Okay. Here we go. I think you two coordinated this, Nate, you and Ashley, since you did the design.
You know, honestly, the first time we had him on, I was just so taken aback by yellow that I was just like, I'm stealing it.
Oh, good. So I can take credit too? All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the thing. See, so this is why you were the message fixer. It got into Nate's head, and he's like, yellow is the color. We're going with it.
I was like, I want to be like Bumblebee from Transformers. Why not?
I know. I love that car. All right. Well, today we are talking about unleashing your communication superpowers. And I'm excited about this topic. Ashley has really... that's his name, like the message fixer. He helps people fix their messages. And if you are struggling with that, then you are tuning into the right place. If you have comments while we are on this broadcast, or even as you're watching the replay, please make sure to share those comments. We do go back and check them and respond. But right now I'm going to turn it over to Nate. He's got the first question for Ashley, and I will be checking the comments as we go.
I know we got the message fixer and the question asker are over here.
And the commenter.
There we go. That just sounded bad, but all right.
I know, it sounded horrible.
The troublemaker, the instigator, the whatever.
Instigator, yes, all of it, all of the above.
All right, Ashley. So I'm just going to start us off real quick here with I would love for you to define or help us learn how to start to define our communication superpowers. Tell us more about doing that.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things that is often overlooked, which is that the ability to communicate as a human being with other human beings is incredibly powerful. But I feel like it's, in our media landscape right now, it's something of a lost art. And, now more than ever, to remain competitive, to remain top of mind, you have to be able to share that message and share it effectively so that you're creating some sort of an action. And so that's really what this is all about.
Absolutely. So now building off of that, why is now a time for people to start to define those communications? Why is now a good time for them to really dive in and learn what they've been failing at in terms of communication, what they can succeed at, things of that nature, talking to people like yourself on getting coaching about that matter. Just walk us through why now is a good time for that.
Sure. So a couple of things. I mean, right now, obviously, as we all know, there's challenges going on, pandemics, businesses closing, economic challenges. And so more than ever right now, it's critical to be able to bring in more business and bring in consistent business and remain sustainable. And that's where communication and messaging is so critical. Whether you're talking about the verbal messages you're sharing through LinkedIn videos or through videos you may have on your site or through public speaking or just through your other peripheral materials, websites and things like that. So that's kind of the broad one that I think is applicable to so many people in a whole range of different industries. But then the bigger picture there is I just think right now, given all the craziness that's been going on the last year almost now, I think it's imperative that the people who can really affect change, that have solutions and ideas, should be stepping up and not being afraid to share that. And part of that comes with knowing what to say. That's where that confidence and that enthusiasm comes from. And so that was the reason behind that comment as well.
Gotcha. So with that being said, who are you helping right now? Like, talk to us about the kind of people who are actually like reaching out and taking advantage of this time to work on their communication, so that people understand like, hey, it's not just you that feel that you need to work on your communication. There are other people in your field or whatever. So talk to us about that.
Sure. So I've got, sort of three categories that I'm working with currently. And the first is entrepreneurs and startup founders. And so for them, it's critical both because in many times they're in a position they're raising money, they're trying to raise money. And so being able to go out and speak to people, investors and things is critical, as well as just being able to kind of up-level their business and move it forward. The second group is nonprofit leaders. And similarly, I mean, right now, nonprofits are sort of getting squeezed on both ends. There's more and more need, and they're also seeing less and less, donations and support and that kind of thing. And so it's critical for them to be able to kind of go out and have everybody in their organization go out and effectively communicate and get donors, get volunteers, get support and partners. And then the third piece of it sort of touches on what I just mentioned a minute ago about sort of now is the time for big solutions and big ideas, is I've been building a lot of relationships with organizations that are funding, those big, crazy, hairy, audacious challenges like clean tech and the environment and clean water and electric vehicles and the things like that, because those are going to be the critical solutions we need to be able to sustain ourselves over the next, 50, 100 years. And so I've been really trying to cultivate that because, again, I think that they're in critical need. It's a very technical spaces usually. And so those founders and those people really need to be able to communicate in such a way that they're getting that action, they're triggering that interest.
Gotcha. Now that actually kind of gets me to the meat and potatoes of the conversation that I really would like to have with you, is about how are you helping people? I know for me, when we're talking about helping people communicate better, I tend to always go toward what we do for a living is in the tech side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping people actively, work on being able to communicate better from a technical standpoint. But you're known as the message fixer. So I believe you're talking about a little bit different side of the spectrum there. So let's hear about how you're helping people and what that means for when you're working with your clients.
Sure. So just in a very simple way, about 65 to 70% of what I do is one-on-one coaching. And then the other chunk of it is group workshops and some other things that are going on. But it's really the one-on-one coaching and then some group workshops. And the way that works is, for example, if we have a startup founder, entrepreneur coming to me, there's usually two things that initiate that first conversation. The first could be that they're going to be going out and delivering a presentation at an industry event, an important event for them, an important milestone for their company. And so they're looking to get help with crafting that message, crafting that overall presentation, maybe helping with their confidence and body language and stage performance. Even though we're all virtual, it's still critical that you're making eye contact and using all the same sorts of communication tools. And so that's the first piece of it. And to be honest, I've completely lost my train of thought as I'm staring at the little green light there.
This live streaming is it's a little nerve-wracking.
We'll get there. So actually, it just came back to me. So thank you for that little interlude.
There you
go. The second piece of it is that you've got. Now I've lost my train of thought again. Good thing we're recording, right? Oh wait, we're
exactly
live.
We are, but this is being recorded. Hey, so
yeah.
Ashley, while you were getting back on your train of thought, we do have a question from Ken.
Okay.
If Nate wants to put that up on the screen, it says, with communications during the pandemic, what has been the most exciting communications development have you seen been employed on platforms in general?
I think what I'm starting to see is people really trying to leverage the technology to do some interesting things. I was looking at a demo just earlier this week of someone who had integrated Prezi. If you're familiar with Prezi and how it's got that kind of 3D movement, they'd integrated it so that it had almost a green screen effect, so they could be speaking on camera while their presentation was sort of scrolling past them. And it was really interesting just to see the two kind of brought together. And so I think things like that are really interesting. I think people are really starting to leverage, a lot of the built-in tools, the polling and the questions and things like that to create engagement, that's critical right now because we are all remote and we're at a distance, but we still need to be engaged. We still need to be participating.
Mm-hmm. I would say LinkedIn Stories, if you guys are not, I know a lot of people here tuning in from LinkedIn, but LinkedIn Stories is becoming a big thing too. So much so that they've said that their engagement on their actual posting is down because of stories, because it's a way to show the behind the scenes. So I know I was a little late to the party here, but I did post this on a live saying we're going live like in 10 minutes. So here's a little behind the scenes screenshot for you. The good thing is people can then go back to the post and watch it. We do have another question for you from Edward Thomas. Just met Edward yesterday on June's live, but it says Alex, and he did say Ashley, sorry. Ashley, what do you find is the typical turnaround for uncomfortable speakers to start getting comfortable? And I'd like to share something, but Ashley, you go ahead. I'd love to hear your ideas on this.
Okay, sure. So the one-on-one coaching that I spoke of, the programs I offer are a minimum of 3 months. And that is just out of experience working with people. I found that that's the amount of time it takes to do two things. One, really craft a succinct message or a complete presentation. And then two, internalize a lot of the skills that are going to be required to do that. If you're overcoming, mindset challenges or anxiety, it's that crafting the message and then rehearsing it and getting comfortable and internalizing it that creates that candid, confident conversation that you come across when you present. And so that's usually the way I think about it is 3 months, to really be effective. And a lot of it is just you have to keep doing it. There is a trial and error component to this. And the only way to get better is to do it, whether it's through rehearsals or getting up in front of real people and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Or losing your train of thought.
I know.
Let you know that bitch is confident.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Look at that.
I love that some value came out of my mind just going sideways.
Oh, funny.
I think thought though, if you want, it's taken 5 minutes, but I'm back to.
Oh, it's come back. It's come back. You've got your train of thought back. It's come back. Okay. All right, Ashley, take it away.
Sure. So the question was the way you engage, and so the first I talked about was one-on-one coaching. Or excuse me, was needing a full presentation. The piece of it, and this is something very common to founders and entrepreneurs, is really, quote unquote, sort of arming them with the stories and the messaging they're going to need kind of when they need it. And so that can be, crafting, for example, a founder story. And so we'll come up with, maybe it's the 30-second version, the 2-minute, and the longer. And that becomes a really critical tool for their toolbox. So if they're out at a networking event or they, the quote unquote elevator pitch, they have that opportunity and they're comfortable. They know that what they're saying works and they've internalized it. And so oftentimes what we'll do is craft a series of those so that we arm the founder with those. And then sometimes what ends up happening is that messaging then filters down into their other communication materials on their website or their sales team. And so those are usually the two ways it starts. There's either a big presentation they're trying to do, or they have a need for kind of ongoing messaging throughout their organization.
I think that's so key what you said too, of not that it's so scripted in your head that it's robotic, but that you live and breathe it. And we had Gary Sanchez with the Y Institute on. Nate, if you remember, you carried the show that time too, despite technical problems. But it's very consistent in like what we're hearing, in terms of people coming on the show, of knowing that having your message down, it makes it so much easier to then go out and share it and be comfortable and be confident. So to Edward's question about the turnaround time for uncomfortable speakers to start getting comfortable, it's about you knowing that material inside and out so that you can just on the fly, it just comes out naturally. Yeah. Like it is so ingrained in you. It's not this, okay, I'm nervous, I don't know what to say. Like it's like a piece of you. And so, you don't want it to be that I don't know what to say. And you don't want it to be that, when people you can see their eyes go up because they're trying to find the script in their head. But rather you want it to be more along the lines of, I know that I have, 4 key points that I hit in my founder story, for example. And in your head, they're just bullet points. And the idea is that each time you share that, it's going to be a little bit different. And that's good because that's when it doesn't feel scripted. People are responding. And for example, if you're in a community where you may have people see you multiple times, it's nice to have that variety and not have it sound like, it's the same script he said last time. Which we hear a lot. I mean, you guys know this. Going to networking events, it's like, oh, I could recite this for you because it's the same damn thing every single time. Sorry, it's Friday, people. It's okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's okay. All right, we have another question here from Ken. Ashley, you touched on it, but how much value do you put on the visual delivery of your communications? Great question, Ken. You're so good at this. You and Nate should team up.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, the visuals, this is the shift, is that I think so many people, the reason presentations are boring or bad or they feel like reports is because people try to sort of put everything on the slide, and they're not really using the slide in the way it should be, which is a support mechanism. And so when you talk about visuals, you have to always be thinking about the content and the visuals from the standpoint that you will be there to fill in the detail. You're the subject matter expert. And so you want the visuals to be, I think number one, professional, high quality, clean. You also want them to be very simple and straightforward. There's no need to have a whole lot of extraneous information if all you want to talk about is this, 55% number, and then you can expand on that with what you're saying. And so I'm all about keeping it simple, keeping it professional, and let your knowledge fill in the gaps.
I just have to give a hand clap for that, a golf clap for that, because I love that. There are so many people that just overuse their PowerPoints, and it's just like, okay, you are really just reading off of this. So you're right, like stop using it as a crutch. And if you've done your work and if you practice, you shouldn't need that. It should be just to the next point that you're going to make, but everyone's eyes in the audience should really be on you. Like you are the subject matter expert. It's not your slides. So take your eyes off of that, put it on the speaker, and you guide the conversation. I just want to give a quick hello to Maria Rouse. Ashley looks really bright.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Maria.
Ashley says hello. Thanks for tuning in, Maria. Yeah, that name fits you, Ashley Bright.
Well, I've had my whole life to figure out this yellow color, so it only took me 40 plus years to go yellow.
I like it.
I'll say this about presentations and stuff. I always give people this advice. All the information needs to be on a slide or any type of background nonsense you got going on should just be enough that if somebody walks in the room and they miss the opening introduction to that particular topic that you're talking about, they can play catch up by understanding what you're talking about. Like that's all they really need to know. Because like you all said, they need to focus on what you're spewing out of your mouth instead of looking at the pretty.
Can we just say that? There needs to be a GIF about that. Like, focus what is spewing out of my mouth. I'm going to start saying that.
I always think of a good presentation deck means that if you're not there to present it, it doesn't make that much sense.
Exactly.
And I remember years ago, I had Infusionsoft was one of my clients for a couple years, and I was at their big conference that they would hold, and Seth Godin was one of the keynotes. And at the end of it, during the Q&A, someone asked if they could get a copy of his deck. And he made the point, he said, I never do that because the deck makes no sense.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was great because, that I think is the sign of a good presentation. Because if your slides say it all, then you might want to not be there. You're not adding any value.
I mean, the point is, to be quite honest, in most cases, if I can learn what you're talking about from looking at a PDF or a slideshow or whatever, I don't need to hear you talk. I'd rather you just send out the slide and just let me go on about my business.
Yeah.
I like meeting with doctors. Like, if you can just send me an email and tell me I'm fine, I'll pay you the $150 for the visit, and I don't want to waste 2 hours coming in to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, part of the problem is I think many people don't. I think a lot of this comes back to, and Tisha touched on this, that people, quite frankly, they can say, "Hey, I was too busy," but really it comes down to being lazy, I think. And so, I mean, you're a subject matter expert, you know this stuff, yet you didn't take the time to put together a presentation that demonstrates that. So now you're actually undermining all of that experience and knowledge because you're reading off your slides, you're boring the audience, et cetera. When really you should be thinking about it in terms of, there's two things. There's the read deck and the leave behind, or the read deck and the listen deck. Mm-hmm. And so if you're out there presenting, you should have the listen deck where it's really simple and straightforward. It's a support tool. If you're leaving it there or sending it to someone, great, put whatever you want in there because they're going to read it. They're going to take the time and you're not going to be there. So, but it takes that effort, that extra work. And, ultimately it comes down to how important is this conversation to you and your business? And if you're going to half-ass it or pawn it off to the intern or whatever, well, you get what you get. So.
Absolutely. I like that. The read deck and the listen deck. I know we have some comments here. Edward saying, what you are all saying goes back to knowing your material inside and out. Absolutely. I stress this even in my personal brand. You are showing up because you are the personality. You are there to deliver the message. It's not the PowerPoint delivering the message for you. Mm-hmm. So this is where, I mean, Ashley does a lot of these presentations, and I'm sure there are other people that talk about messaging, but it's how Ashley shows up and how he presents the material that people leave going, wow, okay, now I want to work with Ashley. It's that connection. And if you're just reading off a PowerPoint that you could have your intern do, then are you really making the impact that you want? And that's what we're here to talk about, is the impact that you make and leave behind.
One of the things, I mean, whenever I go out, virtual or physical stages, I am there to play ball seriously. I'm there to be on stage and be, I'm using the energy. A lot of people, that nervous energy you feel before you go on stage, a lot of people use that to it brings them down, and they get small and they get meek and they read off their slides and they're not really engaged with the audience. Whereas really, if you're thinking about it, you want to leverage that energy to actually have an impact. This is a rare moment. You've got a captive audience, which is super rare in our sort of hyper-connected world. And so you want to bring it. You want to be enthusiastic. You want to show them your passion. You also want to be vibing off the audience too. So if they're asking questions or they're looking confused, this is an opportunity to show your professional qualities and engage with them, solve that problem.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we've got a lot of compliments for you, Ashley. Maria is saying that you are very bright. She always says, I always tell people it's the wow effect on me as an audience. Absolutely. You are the driving force. When you are giving a presentation, it's you they show up for. And then Roseanne Higgins, good to see you. Roseanne Higgins, the matchmaker entrepreneur. She's like, I like that title, Message Fixer. She's asking if you matched the yellow with our yellow. And I think that Nate was actually inspired by your yellow when we first started this.
Right.
Wink, 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 wink. Yeah.
I wanted yellow glasses, but I can't stand them. So yeah, I'm just going to be blind for the rest of my days.
Oh, very good. Very good. All right, Nate, what else you got there?
Oh man, we were rolling. Everybody, just stop talking there. Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's just start improv. Here we go.
I have a question. I have a question, but Nate, you go ahead.
Okay, so actually, when you're working with somebody, let's talk about the difference between where they were before you started working with them and the difference between where they are after you've worked with them for a while. Let's say you talked about 3-4 months or whatever. After you've worked with them, talk about the difference they see in themselves, and talk about the difference, like if they've talked to you about it, that the people they're speaking to have seen about them.
Sure. So, I mean, many of my clients, it's the difference is very obvious in that they actually, get the investment they've been trying to get for a while, or get the sale or the big thing they were trying to accomplish. So that's the first thing. But the other thing is, it's a lot of it is that kind of that mindset and that internal kind of confidence and sense of purpose that they have. And it never sort of ceases to amaze me when I interact with a client who, by all measures is wildly successful, multiple companies, very wealthy, et cetera. And by the second or third session, they'll tell me that, they feel like an imposter. They get anxious and nervous when they get on stage. And what actually ends up happening for many of these individuals, they're technical. That's what their strengths are. They know the technology and their industry. And when that nervousness kicks in, they double down on the technical speak, which just further kind of confuses and alienates the audience. And so one of the big changes that I see is when they have those stories, they have that message they feel confident in, and they're not sort of reverting to that fear and that nervousness and doubling down on the tech. They're actually communicating in a way that is connecting with their audience. They're sticking to their stories. Their pacing is a little more, breathable, and there's moments of pause. It's just a general sense of confidence and comfort. And, getting the investment is critical, but that lifelong ability to feel confident and comfortable in your own skin is, I think, one of the biggest, most transformative things I see across the board, whether it's nonprofit, startup, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maria has a couple of comments here. She just put this one up. When you engage your audience, then you've captured them, that moment. Thanks for all the info. And another one she said was, the audience will know if you're faking it to make it. You can't wing it. Poor presentation. Yeah, not so good.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing that a lot of people don't think about is that, when you're up in front of an audience, by and large, the audience is with you. They want you to succeed. Nobody wants to see someone, stumble or fail or make mistakes. And so, if you're projecting confidence or even just projecting enthusiasm, I'm excited to be here, I'm excited to engage with you, you're going to get that back. Whereas if you're, kind of, no expression, or you're kind of hiding behind the podium, that's when people start to, zone out and start playing with their phone and, start reading your slides, and then you've lost them. And that's very unfortunate.
I think the best, since we're talking about public speaking, and Ashley is great at this, if you guys have questions for him, even offline, talk to him about his public speaking. But I always say no to the podium. I don't know about you guys, but I actually hate standing by a podium. Great if it has like some notes there, but I'm always about walking around the room, participating with the audience, engaging with them, because that is what makes it more fun and more exciting. So I'm going to say this too. I know it was Edward who asked the question of the uncomfortable speaker. I still get uncomfortable. I think a lot of us do. I don't know about you, Ashley and Nate, but I still get the butterflies going, oh my gosh, we're here. We're doing this. It's 2 minutes. It's 1 minute. It's 30 seconds. I still get that way. Not on this live, but on my live, I'm like, dang it. Here we go again, people. Fingers crossed.
There's a great quote that I often use in some of my talks where I say that, the professionals, you think of like news anchors, celebrities, musicians, it's not that they've quelled that nervous energy so it doesn't exist. It's just that, I love the quote, it says, you train the butterflies to fly in formation. The point being, you're still feeling them, but you channel it into the energy you're giving your audience. I mean, much like you, Tisha, I have that nervous energy leading up to it. And I do some things to try and minimize that. And then at a certain point, it's kind of like I clap my hands, I'm in, let's go. And within 10, 15, 20 seconds, I'm feeling the energy from the audience and they're responding. And then I'm in, I know my stuff and I'm just having fun. But everybody has that nervous energy. So you're normal.
I've never cared, to be honest with you. I never have. I actually one time I was trying to introduce a speaker one time, and I was trying to like talk them up. And the lights were so bright in my eyes, I lost my train of thought. So I was screwing it up. And I heard like the people who were running the event and talking over to the side. And I was like, do you think you can do it better? Get out here and talk. And they just like looked at me in horror. And I was just like, what? I said, I said, look, this person's great.
I want to be like Nate.
They're going to tell you all that they want to do. Just come on up and start talking. I'm going to get out your way. And I just played it off as just casual conversation. Nobody had any issues with it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing.
To be quite honest.
That's the other thing too, is everyone, when we're up on stage, we think that the audience is dissecting every move and finding every flaw.
Yeah.
They're not. They're not. If you just keep going, you're good. They're not noticing anything. When people come off and they're like, oh my God, that sucked. And you're like, what are you talking about? That was amazing. Oh, okay.
I want to bring up a point too that you just mentioned, Ashley. You said no one is dissecting. You're right. Nobody has watched you for hours and hours and hours practice in front of your mirror. Nobody saw you put your slides together. Nobody. So if you forget a point in your presentation, slough it off and keep going. You should never be like, crap, I forgot to say something. I was going to say this. Like, just keep going with it because nobody knows.
Yeah.
And that's where we start to beat ourselves up because we're like, I failed at that. You didn't fail.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we talked a little bit about that stage fright and that anxiety, which is really that fight or flight. That's your body's giving you that. And it's hard to overcome that, but there are techniques. But the other really big piece, and probably worse, is that inner dialogue, that monkey mind that's telling you, it's your critic, like, oh, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to suck. These people don't want to listen to, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, that's where that practicing, that getting your mindset right, rehearsing builds that confidence. And, eventually you can kind of push that little nagging voice off to the side a little bit,
I'm just reading some of these comments. I know Roseanne had a question on, I'm just going to go through this. She started doing a series, much like my Rule of Life lesson series, and did it through her live. But she wanted to know, were there any thoughts on how to make the series of value and be in service, how to choose music for it, what to say in a call to action, that sounds inviting? Do you want to take a stab at that real quick? And then as you're thinking about that, I like Edward's whole thing about channeling the butterflies, because the butterflies come out of him like the alien scene. I think we could have all been there. We're like, oh my gosh, this is not pretty.
Well, think about how powerful those butterflies are at making you feel nervous. If you can figure out how to rally them to your benefit, super powerful, super powerful. All right, so back to this question. I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. Is it really about how to create a consistent kind of flow as you move through the series and have that call to action really resonate? Is that I'm asking Tisha and Nate.
Well, I'm reading her response. She says, I launched a new video series on IG last night, what to look for in a matchmaker, and like your numbering, your rule of life lessons, Tisha, I started with number 1. Do you like her? That was fun. But I was wondering if I should redo it more professionally to make it more, interactive and more professional. I'm going to just say this, and I want Ashley and Nate's thoughts on this, but like my rule of life lesson, I record on my phone. I have a couple of apps that I use. I try to make it very consistent, very short and to the point, because it's leading to a story that I'm writing. So mine definitely has a flow. It's kind of expected, but I think that people get caught up on, should it be more professional, and should it, and it's like, that's if you want to invest in that and want to do that. But I think at the end, it's really, do people get a sense of you? Are you coming across loud and clear? What's your message? And are they wanting to engage and interact with you? A lot of the videos that I do are not professionally done. They're me and my phone and my tripod, and that's it. And I feel that has gotten me a lot of engagement just because it's me showing up and being consistent. So Ashley, you want to take the question?
Yeah, no, I think that those are all great points, because I think there's some basics, when we talk about, using your phone and et cetera. I mean, basics. You want to have, decent lighting on your face and not a distracting background, and a microphone that works and is capturing good audio. Beyond that, to Tisha's point, it's really about you, because I've watched some, videos that have all the, whiz-bangy graphics and cuts and music, and they don't really share much of any value. And I've watched ones that frankly look, a little crappy, but they're just delivering so much value, or I'm getting that sense that it was like they just had to record it right now because it hit them and they're in the car or they're out for a walk, and it really doesn't matter. So I think it really comes down to you and the value that you're bringing. And it's, I think it's a little bit like the presentations in PowerPoint we were talking about before, that people, the deck's going to solve everything. It's like, no, it's about you. It's about you showing up. And I think it's the same with video. You showing up. You don't have to have all the fancy stuff. So that's my thought. That's my 2 cents. I'm all about simplicity. I'm all about simplicity. If it takes me, 3 hours to put together a 2-minute video to post, it doesn't seem valuable to me.
No.
I am the same way. I would rather
within reason. If I'm putting together a series that's going to be, people paying money to participate in, I'll take some time. It'll be different. But if I'm doing daily posts or something I just thought of, roll with it.
Roll with it. There you go.
It depends on your end goal too. Is like, if you're wanting to do like a professional webinar where people are paying for it and all this stuff, sure, go the extra mile. But like if you're just wanting to do like us and have a conversation, like I don't use anything fancy. I don't even have a microphone. I'm literally going off a Microsoft Surface. That's it. I don't have a fancy backdrop. I'm here at my house. Sometimes I'm at my office. Sometimes I'm in the park. It just kind of depends on the day. Yeah. That's about it. I don't get too far into it because I want people to focus on the conversation and not worry about what's going on behind my big ugly head.
But it's a great point though, Nate. I mean, it's really about the context. So I mean, if you're doing social media posts, just have at it. But I mean, if you're you're expecting people to pay hundreds or thousands of dollars to participate in a course, I think it's worth thinking about that professionalism, good lighting, good audio. Are you really thinking through the series, 1, 2, 3, how those all fit together, and et cetera. So.
Well, good. I know we are running out of time, and I want to give Ashley, I know you have a couple of things that you're offering the group, the live listeners and viewers, as well as our replay. So what is it that you're offering as we wrap this up?
Well, it's scrolling across the bottom there. Anybody who would like a quick consultation to help them with their messaging, with their confidence, with their public speaking, the link is scrolling across the screen there. So please jump in, book a call. Love to chat with you and help you out. And so that's the big one. And And then Tisha, I'm not sure what else you've got on your list. I can't remember what it sent you.
I'm sorry, I just saw Maria's post. She's like, "Oh my God, Nate, were you in the cast of How to Get Away with Murder?"
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, you guys are making me laugh this Friday. All of you, all you live people, Nate, Ashley, good
There's some
times.
good Friday energy, I tell you.
Good Friday.
Absolutely. I'm kind of curious about the question now.
I know. Does he look like a castmate in How to Get Away with Murder? Or it's
Maybe.
just like his demeanor, your demeanor.
I mean,
you should
I am rocking my red Columbia sweatshirt, so I mean, I might look like an axe murderer. Why not?
Well, Nate's just bucking all the trends. You know, I got glasses and backdrops. We're talking about sound and microphone, and he's like, you don't need all that. Just your face in front of a camera.
Sweet tea sign up
see my
there.
big face with the sweet tea sign in the back.
Yeah.
Believe me,
Sweet
Nate,
tea sign.
over the last 8 months, I've seen some pretty awful backgrounds. Yours
Oh.
certainly doesn't qualify.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. Thanks to everybody who was tuning in live. Great questions today. If we didn't get your question answered, make sure to check in with Ashley, or, Ashley, if you would like to respond on the live feed, then you can do that as well on the recording. And pleasure, guys. This was really fun. Nate, always good to see you. Ashley, I'll see you around for some kangaroo coffee one of these days.
Definitely. I like kangaroo coffee. That's a whole new
Kangaroo
thing.
coffee. So quick story. Nate, Ashley and I actually saw a kangaroo while we were on our coffee date. So
Fancy.
yes, I know.
Just running through the streets of Scottsdale. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know.
I mean-
It was weirder. It was in someone's shoulder bag, a little baby kangaroo. And we looked at it for 10 minutes. Like,
I mean, I have one. I don't understand what y'all are so surprised about.
see, there's Nate again, bucking all
I
the
know.
trends.
He's like,
What's the
I've
big
got
deal?
a kangaroo.
What's wrong with
I've
you
got a
people?
koala. I've got everything over here in
All
the middle
right.
of nowhere, Georgia.
Thank you so much to both of you for hosting this and inviting me. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I could influence your overall colors. That means a lot to me. And so thank you to everyone who commented. I appreciate the questions.
And Ashley was our very first Casual Convo Friday. Before it, we had all these cool graphics.
I know,
So
now it's all
right?
professional.
yeah, now we're all professional. Bodied off. All
I'm
right,
getting yellow
guys.
background next. Just wait.
I know.
There you go,
I know.
Nate.
All right, Nate, you get on that. Okay, thanks everyone. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back next Friday. Brian on Draco is joining us. And have a good one. Happy
All right.
weekend.
Have a good
Thanks,
weekend.
y'all. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.